It's got a lot of humor, a lot of different kinds of singing. It's kind of a happy role most of the time. In contrast to the Mozart Figaro that has his sad moments, the Barber of Seville is up, up, up all the time.
That was the LA Opera. You're going to be with the LA Opera again soon. Is that a special place to be? You grew up in Southern California?
It's a blessing for me. It's a wonderful company to work for. And it's great for me because I live in the Los Angeles area, so to be able to sing where I live is something that is not that common for opera singers, you know. So
you actually go home at night?
I actually go home at night. I commute to work.
And is that the place that you saw your first opera, at the LA Opera?
No, I can't remember what opera I saw for the first time. But it's the first real debut I had was in Los Angeles, singing a little tiny role in Otello in 1987, opposite Placido Domingo. One line, but it was a great beginning.
Tell us about working with Domingo. Have you worked with him as Domingo the conductor as well as Domingo the singer?
Yeah, we've done actually, I think, 3 operas together as singing colleagues. And then recently, I also had the opportunity to do La Boheme with him as conductor, which was very interesting to have a conductor who's a singer in the pit. You know, there's a certain kind of sympathy, a certain kind of working together that one doesn't usually experience.
You learn something from them? You pick things up from him?
Yeah, lots. You know, he's obviously he knows every word of the score and has a certain lyrical sense. You know, singing every line with you. It's really a wonderful experience.
Talk to us about Elizio de Moray. This is a broad comedy, right?
Yeah, it is, absolutely.
I think also from the Figaro we saw, I sense you like that. You like doing comedy.
Oh, I love comedy. I really do. Belcore is a kind of an army captain type who is completely full of himself and is unaware what a buffoon he makes of himself, thinks of himself as the man about town. Every woman, of course, would fall over just to have a piece of him. It's not true at all. He's totally fooling himself, so it's kind of fun to play the fool.
And Billy Budd, what has that meant to you in your career, doing that role?
Billy Budd's been a very important role to me. It's the role that I probably identify personally with the most.
Really? Why is that?
Well, I don't want to say that Billy Budd's virtues are my own, but it's a role that I felt from the first time that I heard it and saw it, that it was really something that was for me. He has elements of innocence and innocence of naivete, but also tremendous strength. And there's some roles, it's characteristics that you don't often find in a role written for a man. And it ends very tragically. It's a fantastic role. It's been a great vehicle for me.
And the life of an opera singer tends to be doing a certain amount of roles and then sort of phasing those out and going into new roles. What are you looking forward to that you haven't been able to do yet?
You're saying I'm getting too old for Billy Budd?
I didn't say anything of the sort. I just,
it has been said, though. Well, there's certain, you know, at some point you have to give up the roles that are supposed to be the younger man and move on to the next phase. And if and when I give up Billy Budd, it'll be very stubbornly, because I love that role. But roles that kind of serve for me as a kind of a bridge into the next phase of my career will be things like Don Giovanni or Eugene Onegin, I Puritani, Posa and Don Carlo. These things they're not the heaviest repertoire, but they're a stretch from the normal lyric baritone repertoire, and it's a path that many lyric baritones who are seeking to extend their career past the kind of the young roles. That's a logical step that many of us make.
Very few opera singers get to actually create a role. Most of them do roles that have been done in the past. Let's talk about Streetcar Named Desire. You started this role. You played Stanley Kowalski. Tell us about that in the process of creating a new opera role.
Wow, that was an experience that could not be duplicated by any other. It was a great honor to take this icon of American theater and American film and be able to do the role of Stanley Kowalski for the first time. I took it very seriously, more seriously than I think I've done anything else. I avoided watching the film for the longest time because I didn't want to be too influenced by what Marlon Brando did. But when I finally watched it, I realized that he was a tremendous help and, you know, untouchable in the role.
You say you didn't see it for a long time. At what point in the process did you see the film?
I'd say probably about 9 months before we began rehearsals. I finally watched the film. This was after reading the play several times and I did a very extensive character analysis of Stanley Kowalski and also of myself, which was rather revealing.
What did you do? Get on the couch with somebody? What did you do?
I beg your pardon.
I mean, psychiatrically speaking.
No, I did a personality survey called an Enneagram, and it's like a long questionnaire where you answer questions how you react in certain kinds of situations. And it's, I mean, there was a woman in Southern California who helped me with it and who did the evaluation and sent it in to be properly analyzed. And you come back with a personality type that pegged me. I couldn't believe how it pegged me. Which there were a few shared characteristics with the character of Stanley Kowalski, but most of them were quite different. It was very revealing then to see what I had to act and what I could rely on my own experiences to portray. So at the end of all of that, after I had done all of that and read the play and had the score, started working on the score, then I finally watched the film. And it was quite an eye-opener. I'd never seen the film before.
What did you borrow from Brando?
You name it. Where could you go wrong, you know? It was the definitive, and it always will be, for me, the definitive Stanley Kowalski. So, I mean, he was a great help.
And when Andre Previn finished the score, did you take it and that was it? Or in the process, were there changes made? There were notes changed? Did the script change?
There apparently quite a few revisions were made before I got the score. But after I got the score and in the rehearsal process, it was, you know, a great opportunity to say, you know, Andre, this doesn't quite lie quite right in my voice. Would you mind if I do this, if I sing, you know, if we could change this note or change this rhythm or whatever? And he was always very, very open to it. And that was a fascinating process, to actually have the composer conducting rehearsals, you know, and to be right there with him in your face. It was great.
Not something you normally get to do with Rossini and Mozart and
that's not, that's
and the
right.
other music.
Well, a lot of times I'd like to. You know, you think, why did he write it like that? Wish I could ask him if, you know, if he had a reason for it, if we could make a slight alteration.
Let me ask you about your wife. I read that you've known her since you were 13?
I was 12.
You were 12, she was 13?
Preteen.
That's
must have scared my mother half to death.
That's amazing that you can really stay together that long. What do you attribute that to?
Determination, love, hard work, just you know, absolute determination to make it work. We're both very hard-headed, and the thing we're most hard-headed about is our relationship. So that's what I attribute it to.
Was there one person that encouraged you into this world of music?
Oh, a lot of people encouraged me. A lot of people. My parents were very musical. My mother sang in church choirs and sang for funerals and weddings and such. My father was a teacher and conductor of bands and orchestras at the high school and college level. So we had a lot of music in the family. And as soon as I started to, especially in high school, I started doing musicals with my wife. That's how we actually met, doing musicals in high school. I got encouragement right away, and I started doing little solos and getting lead parts in musicals, and I decided to major in music in college. I had lots of encouragement all the way along. Not really many discouragements, you know, discouragements, as if that's a word.
I think so.
But, you know, people, you know, came from a lot of sources, from my parents, from my teachers, from adjudicators in competitions, from opera directors, from voice teachers. You know, I always had a long way to go. I still have a long way to go, but the encouragement is there, you know, and that's gratifying.
And was there a moment or an event that had you change from doing musical theater, which is a typical and certainly a realistic thing for high school kids to do, that got you into saying, hey, I'd rather do opera instead of musical theater, or more opera instead of musical theater?
I had a real attraction to classical music, and in high school even, you know, we had a fantastic choral program. That's really what kind of directed me, kind of aimed me in the classical direction more than anything else, was this experience in the choral program at our high school. The thing I liked even then were the more classical pieces that we did. We did a lot of classical music. We did also some more pop and musical theater kind of stuff, but most of it was very classical, sophisticated, you know, stuff. and I liked it. And in college, that's what I was mostly attracted to. So it was a kind of a very natural, easy transition. I still love musical theater, though, and I did a couple of musicals a few years ago, Oklahoma and Carousel, which was the most fun I've had on stage in years. I can't wait to do something like that. Actually, in Los Angeles, in 2001, I'll be doing The Merry Widow, which is an operetta, but there's singing and spoken dialogue, so it's a lot like a kind of a European musical. So I can't wait for that. That's going to be fun. I've done it lots in Europe, but I have never done it in English. So that'll be a kick.
These roles that seem so right for you as part of your physicality, you seemingly stay in shape. Is that important to you?
It's important to me. You know, I maintain that opera singers don't have to be in great shape to sing well. I mean, look at the most successful opera singers.
A lot of them don't.
A lot of them don't. It's not essential. But I guess because I'm vain and because I like to look the part that I portray, I can't imagine Billy Budd with a beer belly. Billy Budd beer belly. It sounds good, but it doesn't work.
Well, and the typical joke is that the opera singer's wasting away and with consumption, and you know she's really large.
Right. I think times are changing. You know, the first and foremost, most important thing in opera, that always will be, is the unamplified or self-amplified singing voice. That's the thing that distinguishes it from any other art form, any other staged presentation, is you've got these unamplified voices. And that's always number one. So if you've got someone with a fantastically beautiful voice, you'll forgive the rest of it. If they don't look the part exactly, that still is the most essential element. I try to just help people in suspending their disbelief a little more easily. I'll try to say, you know, I try to look the part and act the part, and this makes it that much easier to draw the audience in, to break down that barrier between the stage and the audience. And you know, and I love to act, and so it's a natural thing for me to do.
Has that been an important part of it, the acting? Have you actually focused on that, taken lessons in that?
I've never taken a lesson. I've never taken a lesson in acting. I probably should.
I think you're doing okay.
I love it. I do love it, though.
Where else can we see you live and in person here in the United States coming up?
Oh, in April and May, I'll be at the Met doing La Boheme. In December, I'll be doing Fledermaus in Dallas. And then, of course, May and June is Billy Budd in Los Angeles, which I'm really looking forward to. So those are kind of my major opera things in the United States this season.
And will you do Stanley again? Will we see a Streetcar again?
I hope so.
You'd like
really
to do it
hope
again?
So.
And recordings, where can we hear you?
The next recording I'm doing is a recording of Iphigénie en Tauride of Gluck, which will be done with Boston Baroque in October. Then we've got some other things planned for the future that are not quite so concrete.
Rodney Gilfry, thank you for coming in. Come back anytime.
Thanks. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Elliott.
Rodney Gilfry can be heard as Stanley Kowalski on the world premiere recording of Andre Previn's A Streetcar Named Desire, and as Don Giovanni on the archive label's recording of that opera. He will perform in the LA Opera's Elizio de Moray from September 11th to the 25th. Breakfast with the Arts will continue in a moment. Don't go away.